Bajan strong and pump it. Pump it up, pump it. Pump it up, pump it. Pump it up, pump it. 'Cause we got the team not winning. Every single body winning. Energy and vibes winning. Winning, winning. Yeah.
Because, my friends, we are Bajan strong.
Hello, I'm Liz Thompson, and with me this evening will be Tahir Bulbulia as your host. This is Bajan Strong, the election podcast of the Barbados Labour Party, where we are inviting professionals, experts, candidates, all kinds of people to give us their views about the major issues facing the electorate and facing Barbados. We hope that you'll join us for every episode so that you can make more informed decisions about who you're going to vote for. Of course, we would want that to be the Barbados Labour Party, and we want that to be the Barbados Labour Party based on our performance as laid out in what people are calling the Little Red Book, the Red Record A to Z, and in our most recently launched document just last night, the Barbados Labour Party Manifesto 2026. Greater will our nation grow. Immediately familiar, comfortable, and yet challenging. Challenging us to be our best selves as Barbadians. Challenging us to make the Barbados the best that we possibly can. Before we go any further, let me apologize for my hoarseness. No, I have not been shouting on the platforms. It is actually because there's so much dust in the air. My allergies are acting up. Bajan Strong is the name of this program, but it's one of the slogans being used by the Barbados Labour Party in this campaign. And it says, and I want to read it to you from page 6 in what we are calling the M Notes, notes from Mia. This is who we are. Bajan Strong is not merely a slogan. It is a declaration of identity and intent, coming from the bosom of who we are, a people whose values, strength, and natural resilience have allowed us to survive, to succeed, and to establish Barbados as a global brand and international leader. Bajan Strong. You are Bajan Strong. I am Bajan Strong. The BLP is Bajan Strong, and we are Bajan Strong together. And with me in studio this evening are two experts in their field. Dr. Christina Hines, lecturer in government and politics, political analyst, here in her own professional right and not as a member or supporter of our party. And also in studio, political analyst and pollster Peter Wickham. And they are joining me for a discussion about the manifesto, which came out a few hours ago, and about the other hot news. Bees in front. Accurate, inaccurate. Can we translate this from paper poll into real poll? Election day, real votes, election day. And you see very interesting graphic there. So let's start. We've got about 20 minutes together. We're going to chat on these issues. Thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate your being here. I want to start with the manifesto. It came out just a couple hours ago, and I know that you would not really have had a chance to read it fully. But Dr. Hines, do people take manifestos seriously? Does this one help that it comes with the record showing what we promised in the past and what we did? And did you like it, dislike it?
Well, I did get a chance to read it fully. I read the whole thing. I just finished just before we came on, so I got a chance to read it. Thanks for the homework. A lot of people do not read manifestos in full. Those who are interested and engaged may read it or may read them, but several people don't. I think they are useful documents to have, although they are usually relatively vague. They don't give us a lot of detail about how political parties plan to get where they say they're going to go. And they're often documents that are helpful for students to do analyses, etc., but are not always helpful for most people in understanding what their governments are doing. So if we line up what actually happens with manifestos, a lot of the times we find that manifestos provide some plans that are very nice on paper. They look great, but they do not always come to reality. I know your red record attempts to indicate where they do, but we know that that is a very creative document too.
Come on.
As is the manifesto. And there are things about the manifesto that I liked. I find it to be very ambitious. I think it sets some goals for Barbados that I think we should set for ourselves, but the ambition may be part of the problem as well. I wonder how we are going to get to some of these things. Are some of them realistic? And I want more details.
Couple measures then that you actually liked.
The one that I liked, and also the one that I want much more detail on, is the investment for young people born from the 30th of November 2021. This is very interesting. I think, again, quite creative, but how is this going to be funded? How are we going to fund $5,000 per child? How is it going to be sustained long term? And what guarantees? I know it says that there will be legislative protections for this fund, but this is 18 to 25 years we're talking about. How can we be certain that these investments will be locked in and that we won't come upon hard times and then be informed that it has to be a delay? There's a delay to paying out, or that they need to be cut, or it has to be discontinued, and we have these promises that were made, and even if the government of today, or assuming that the BLP is successful, we don't know, being committed to this, we don't know what subsequent governments will be committed to, and what does this mean for taxation.
Okay, so my response to that would be that both parties, in large measure, have had a lot of policy continuity. And even though there have been breaks, like the government, the Democratic Labour Party, reneging on its traditional commitment to free tertiary education, that generally governments have honoured, Barbadian governments have honoured their commitments. Certainly the Barbados Labour Party has. I think that the legislative protection is going to go a long way towards not just creating a structure, but creating in law the protections for those whose futures are really wrapped up in the policy. Peter, a new BLP manifesto, a red record. Do you think that the BLP is able to persuade people on the basis of this manifesto, or in your opinion, do manifestos have minimal impact on outcome?
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember I had done a survey some years ago asking people in the wake of an election, have you read the manifesto? And we probably found like about 20% of people said that they read it. Said that they read some aspect of it. And an even smaller quantity actually read it in detail. So I'm not convinced a lot of people read them, but we're in an environment now where people read less anyhow. And I think that the manifesto itself is clearly designed to speak to a person who wants to see that there's a substantial plan, that it is a program that looks achievable. The document is heavy, which has a nice thump, and then it also is written in a way that it doesn't get too bogged down in terms of words. So I certainly would want to congratulate you on, as I'm assuming that you were involved in this process, for the design, the concept, and so on, in terms of the way that it looks and the way it is presented. As far as the substance is concerned, I would like to start where Christina ended in terms of this initiative to assist children born after 2021 to create an investment fund. Children of the Republic. Yeah, I thought that was pretty ingenious. It's an initiative which is not particularly expensive in the scheme of things, but certainly when you look at what the government spends on the average kid at school, it's not a huge amount of money. But having said that, it is a way of treating to a simple need in a way that isn't any infrastructure, heavy infrastructure and things of that nature. So it's good that those kinds of initiatives can be taken. In a broader sense, I think the Barbados Labour Party is fortunate now in that you came into government in 2018 when essentially the economy was in a bad place, and you have essentially taken hard decisions up front. You were confronted by COVID, which made things even worse. And you were able to know we're on a crest of recovery, economic recovery and economic growth, and essentially you're right in that crest. So you would initially not have had elbow room, and clearly now you do have elbow room, and it gives you the opportunity to be as ambitious as Christina was suggesting that you are in the manifesto. So what are some of the things in it that grab me? I mean, there is an infrastructure slant, which is clearly reflected in some of the infrastructure that you want to build. A manifesto that has infrastructure is always something exciting because people like to open a manifesto and see buildings that will be and whatnot. So you've done that clearly in terms of the exercise. The things that I found were interesting have a lot to do with my understanding of what is important issues to Barbadians. So there were some cost of living initiatives, which will be important in terms of treatment to things and additional allowances and so on that will help some people deal with the cost of living reality. But then there is a treatment to health in terms of the new hospital extension, which is something that concerns a lot of people, and they will be interested in that. I also was particularly happy with the infrastructure part and the fact that the roads are going to treat to the issue of congestion. Congestion is a huge problem for a lot of us in Barbados, and I was happy that it was given some treatment in the manifesto. My one regret is that it didn't attempt to deal with any kind of mass transit initiative, which would have been a considerable amount of money. But we've seen the re-emergence of the flyovers, which are relatively easy in as much as the infrastructure is there for them already, and various other issues to deal with traffic, which is a considerable problem in Barbados. And then housing, there's some significant housing initiatives, and I think that those are also things which are important. And then, of course, there's the cultural aspect, the fact that we will have a new stadium, which is good for sports. We will also have two new cultural facilities, which should be the Newton Burial Ground being developed, and also the entertainment. Well, I think it's a I forget the correct name for the facility. National Arts Center. Yeah. Center, yeah. So those initiatives are the ones that speak to me. I share Christina's concerns in terms of the grandiose nature of it, but I also think that you're in a position where you can make those kinds of commitments now because you do have a little bit of elbow room. And yeah, you're fortunate in that you have the Red Book, which is an interesting initiative that we spoke about last time that I don't see a lot, but the fact that you can say to people, look, we're going to deliver this thing. Some of the things have a particularly long timeline at the hospital and the flyovers, and it's unlikely that they could be delivered within 5 years, but we'll see some start or some initiative to get them started, which I think will be welcomed by people.
How, for both of you, how does the platform make manifestos live or policy commitments live in the minds of the public, or is the platform just nightier entertainment?
I think the platform is where most people are going to understand some element of the manifesto, especially if they don't read it. So what is said on the platform about the manifesto is quite informative. I listened a bit to the presentation of the manifesto, and some of the detail that I was looking for was not there at all. More of it is in the manifesto, and it may be useful not to have some of that detail for certain reasons, but people that really want to understand things further can look in the manifesto, where there still needs to be more information. Not necessarily the manifesto, but people need to have a better understanding of how these things are going to function. So the platform is important to persuade people that what is in the manifesto is useful, even though the platform does not and did not present this manifesto fully in my estimation. On Peter's point, there are a few things in the manifesto, although I said it was optimistic and ambitious, there are some things in here that are also very low-hanging fruit, that if the Barbados Labour Party wins, they should
Check
be,
them off.
yeah, they should,
Quickly.
should be
things
easy
that are
to check off.
entirely doable.
Things that
for the
have already
public of
started,
Barbados.
like the
Yeah.
same National Arts Centre, the Newton Burial Ground, the Geriatric Hospital. I would hate to think that a government would start these things and then don't finish them when they get in. So some of these things are easy to check off, others are quite ambitious, and one would want to see how, if the BLP is successful, they will get it done.
Based on what you saw in the manifesto, I mean, Peter spoke to cultural industries, sports industries, and new housing initiatives and so on. And my question to you would be, to what extent do you see this manifesto generating economic activity, more jobs, and greater opportunities for young people?
I don't think the manifesto is going to do it. I
Well,
think it is the if the
initiatives
manifesto could do it, that would be
outlined in the
fantastic.
manifesto, yeah, we can't wave it and say,
But I mean, if these things can become realities, there are useful things in here. The ease of doing business, needed. But so many times we've heard about the ease of doing business. There's so many times we've heard about initiatives to address poverty, housing, education, which is why I said it is more the how. So it is one thing to have things in a manifesto, and it's another to deliver on them. And then we have all these intervening variables. Oh, there's a hurricane, there's a freak storm, there's a crisis, there's the global
and there's
stage.
no doubt the Barbados Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Motley, has shown itself highly capable of dealing with external shocks and crises. And
Sure, but those things are also the reasons why we hear some of the things were not completed. So that's why I said the manifesto is a nice thing to have, but in terms of getting things done, because they tend to be so ambitious, they are ideals that we want to aspire towards. This is wonderful. Sometimes you can fall short, and that's why we need to see how you're going to get there. But if you can get to some of these things, it'll be useful, to be sure.
So the link is online for you to go to the manifesto, the electronic copy. How we're going to re-engineer the public services at page 44 and 45. Dealing with the crisis of NCDs, 46 to 48, safety and security, one of the major issues, I think, in the country and in this campaign, 61 to 63, cost of living, traffic, housing. The Barbados Labour Party has not sought to duck the issues, but to outline really clearly what it has done and what are the next steps, what it will do. One of the things that attracts me is the initiatives for small business and small entrepreneurs and middle class people in this country who feel that they are carrying the burden of the country on their backs in terms of taxation. This document shows all of the tax relief that has been given to the middle class, all of the things that have been given to the middle class. And then this new document shows what are the further commitments being made to the middle class people of Barbados. So read the manifesto, see if it appeals to you, and then make a decision based on the fact that the Barbados Labour Party was able to say, we committed to things, we have done them. Here's the evidence of that. And in relation to coming crises, and there are hurricanes that pass through our region. There have been all kinds of external shocks that we had not expected. Certainly, if you're looking for a government that has experience and skill in dealing with crises and challenge, then you have to look to the Barbados Labour Party. I'm going to pivot from the manifesto and I'm glad that you both think that it is a good document. We are appreciative of that, Peter. Thank you for your compliment on the document. Very quickly, there is a poll that came out. We saw it earlier. We don't have lots of time left, but tell me, please, you did not, Peter Wickham and cadres did not do this poll. How do pollsters ensure that polls are reliable? How do you get a reliable poll, and why should we trust the poll process? What is the process?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, and it's a question that we are asked quite frequently in this business. And let me say that the political pollster has a huge challenge in that his work is verified in the context of an election, while pollsters who do other things, there's really little way that you can verify in many instances. Look, I always explain that the easiest way of explaining what a poll attempts to do is that it's like tasting a bowl of soup. You can use a spoonful and it will tell you the type of soup. So whether it's a chicken broth or whether it is a cow heel soup or something like that, invariably from a spoonful, you should be able to work out what the soup is without having the entire pot to consume. And that's really the acid test. How is the ladle developed? And that is your methodology that determines that you get the right sample to ensure that you are getting people that reflect the outcome. So in terms of political polling, what you want to do is you want to get a sample of persons that will tell you what the likely outcome of an election will be with all the challenges that one has in there. I tend to think that, well, certainly in terms of my organization, we have a methodology that determines who is a likely target for responses. There's a rule that says everyone has to have an equal opportunity of being chosen. So we go out there, we speak to them, we make our selection, and based on the information recorded, then you essentially generate a report. It's important to remember that polling is, everyone does polls. You have online polls, you have polls on telephone, you have physical polls. We prefer the physical as opposed to the others because we see methodological challenges in terms of the others that are done in the telephone or over the online method, which seems to be something that people are doing these days. There are various rules regarding or various practices that methodologists have regarding the quantity of people that they attempt to interview and the way that they structure them. So do they hold sex and age constant, or alternatively, do they look for the constituency of origin of the person as a place that they hold constant? So those factors that are taken into consideration, and then you execute and you do a report. One of the challenges that you will always have with polling of a political nature is that there will be people who will not tell you what they will do.
I'm going to pause you there because we're coming to the end. And I wanted to ask Dr. Hines, do people generally in these polls tell the truth? And was what you saw in the paper today consistent with what your experience and what you have been hearing in relation to this particular campaign? What would you expect?
I think that people are generally honest. I don't think that people always know exactly what they're going to do on polling day. Those who are committed to a particular party know what they're going to do, but others may say today, I don't know what I'm going to do, or I'm going to vote one way or another, and something persuades them along the way. It can be some kind of controversy during the campaign. It could be something that they've heard. It could be a manifesto. It could be a number of things. So I wouldn't say that people are dishonest, but there is a segment of the population that doesn't really know what they're going to do, the uncommitted. And I think the poll, yes. And the poll today, sometimes they're not fully undecided. Sometimes people have decided, but they're not really wedded to this decision that they've kind of made. And there are things that can change their mind. And I think the poll reflects that to some extent. It does indicate that the Barbados Labour Party is ahead of the Democratic Labour Party. It does also show that there are some green shoots, even if they're relatively short, for the Democratic Labour Party. So perhaps they can take some comfort in that. But we have to see what happens on the day. And there's only one real way to test the poll, which is to see the election outcome.
That's a real poll.
That is the real poll. I hope that we will get to discuss that. So, we've discussed the manifesto. We've looked at the poll. Just want to make a few notes before we come to the end. One, the real poll is the 11th. What it says in the newspaper does not mean that that outcome is definite. You may feel that you want to be fair and that we need an opposition. I want to caution you that if enough people feel like that, we could end up with a government that has no experience, no skills, has not been tried or tested, and is really not the government we want. A party in confusion, unable to manage its own affairs, with then the affairs of the country foisted on them and left to go into crisis. We have to be very careful about the selection of our government. And the Barbados Labour Party is asking you to give them the third term to continue the work that they have been doing. That's my first caution. The second thing is that really do not think you know what the outcome will be. I know I started like that. You must get out and vote. That's the only way. Staying home is a vote actually, because it helps somebody to win, somebody who is not necessarily your choice. So those are the two cautions I would want to leave you with. I want to thank Dr. Hines and Mr. Wickham, both experts in their field, for coming and giving us their unvarnished views and unbiased views of the issues about which we are speaking.
People, represent with your hand in the air.
Elections change lives. Let me tell you, we have broken ground. We have broken ground. We have a design, and we are going to be building a new South Coast sewage project for Barbados, all here in this manifesto.
We will establish a global young Bajan fund. That fund will ensure that everybody, all of them, I don't know how else to say every Barbadian under the age of 21, the Barbados Labour Party government will establish a national performing arts school of excellence, people. A national, wait, we're gonna clap for that. Clap for that.
It is clear to me that in Rathorn and that bunch, that they are prepared to burn the reputation of this country down, even if all they will have to rule over are the ashes of it. We will, at the QEH, and I want Barbados to understand, deliver a $400 million expansion and modernization of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And we are also going to be giving, for the first time in the history of this country, to ensure financial dignity, introduce a $1,200 a year living credit for pensioners, so all pensioners in this country will get an additional $1,200.
Part of this giga is to move large-scale manufacturing to St. Lucie and create a manufacturing hub in St. Lucie that will bring jobs to the people in that area. Anybody here from St. Andrew? That is where the green electricity zone, which is a bioenergy park. Basically what that means is that you're using waste of different types to create energy for industry. It is the intention that Greenland in St. Andrew will become the giga location for our green electricity zone.
People, represent with your hand in the air.
Hello and welcome to this next segment of the Bajan Strong podcast. My name is Tahir Bulbulia and I am one of the co-hosts of this program, and it's a pleasure to be joined by the President of the League of Young Socialists, Ms. Roshana Trim, and the President of the Barbados Youth Development Council, Mr. Caleb Braffett. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us today. Roshana, I'm going to start with you. The manifesto was launched last night in Golden Square. How did that feel for you, and what was the energy like down there?
First of all, the energy was the same energy that we've been feeling throughout the entire campaign since the launch. It was high energy, a lot of camaraderie. Everyone was excited, of course, to hear the kind of commitments that the Barbados Labour Party will put forward so that we could once again continue to guide Barbados forward. For me as a young person, admittedly, I've been around for about 3 manifesto launches, but there's something about this one that feels different. It's a lot more exciting to me. And having actually perused the manifesto and taken a look and listened to the presentations, I'm definitely excited to see some of these commitments and the possibility of these commitments being put into action once the Barbados Labour Party is successful on February 11th.
Yeah, the energy was definitely high, and there were lots of young people, not just from the city, but all over Barbados down there, really showing up in their red and really enjoying the atmosphere.
Right already.
Caleb, I'm going to jump to you now. You're the president of the Barbados Youth Development Council. You're a man that travels around the country. What's the feeling on the ground of the youth in particular towards the political process and voting in this election?
Well, certainly. Thank you very much for having me. The feeling on the ground is that, the national debate is that there significant voter apathy among young people. But really and truly, I do think that is not really so, Young people are already taking a keen interest on this election. It takes a minute scrolling through social media, even in terms of the memes they're sharing all across social media and everything. Young people are really and truly looking closely at what our leaders have to say about this election. So that the feeling on the ground is basically what government ever assumes office after February 11th, what are you going to do for me and my children?
Yeah, I think that is a very important conversation there. What does the future of Barbados look like? And we often have these conversations and we think so far down the line, but the fact is that we have to start taking those steps from today to make what the future is for Barbados. And Roshana, we have the A to Z record, the red record here. Before we go to the manifesto, what was some of those projects or initiatives that stood out for you and young people within the work of the government over the last 8 years since 2018?
There are so many that really and truly stood out, whether you look at things like the expansion of TVET and the expansion of technical and vocational training, as well as the focus on the digital economy and the creative sector as well. To be quite honest, the thing that stood out most to me over the last couple of years has been the return of university education to young Barbadians, if we're being quite honest. The introduction of the grant for persons who have children who are living with disabilities, and how we've sought to include them through the policy for persons living with disabilities in Barbados. The other thing is the extension of maternity leave, the introduction of paternity leave at 3 weeks, the increase in minimum wage. I feel like I could go on and on and on. But also when you look at things like education, transformation, and the work that we've been doing there, as well as the peace program and the kinds of interventions that the government has sought to introduce. And let's not forget the Prime Minister's Cup, which has taken Barbados by storm. And those are the kind of things that the government has done. And I mean, the Red Record contains so much information just to show that there has been a serious investment in young people in Barbados to ensure that there are opportunities and pathways for everybody to thrive, because we committed to making Barbados the best place to live, work, do business, and raise a family, and the Red Record shows that we are well on that path.
Yes, certainly. I would definitely agree with you. The Prime Minister's Cup was one of my favorites. I'm into sports. Caleb, to you now, the manifesto. The Prime Minister announced some major talking points last night. What stood out for you?
Well, of course, from my youth development standpoint, one of the things that I have been advocating since assuming the leadership of the Youth Council, that would have been in 2023, is that for government to prioritize in terms of allowing young people to not only have a seat at the table, but to be able to speak on that certain things that will ultimately affect them, and ensure that young people could be able to chart their path. So one of the things that as I peruse this manifesto, as I turn to page 58, you see that there is the expansion of youth representation in the Senate. Every future Senate senator of the BLP government would include at least 3 persons on the party. I like that. Personally, what I would have loved is for it to be 35 and under, because you're a young person up until 35. But it is a step in the right direction. I also see that there's going to be cabinet review, strategic resolutions from Youth Parliament, which is great. Youth Parliament for many years now has just been a talk shop, and that's it. You just talk and you look pretty on camera and you have a nice meal in downstairs in Parliament and you go home. But finally, we can see that Youth Parliament is really going to be that place where young people are going to debate on issues that would touch and concern them, and for the government through the cabinet to really take them on serious. So when you look at this and you contrast it with the child wealth fund and that of giving people that are no starting families access to that cash grant of $5,000 to be able to access it from age 18 to 25. You see that in this manifesto that, and particularly this covenant with young Bajans, as the manifesto terms it, is going to be a really good thing for young people in Barbados.
Roshana, there's a conversation that we have a declining population, an aged population, and many younger persons, they're a bit skeptical about having children. They want a little incentive, they want a little something in their pocket so that they could afford the children. I see children as a blessing. I love children. I want enough children. but Roshana, the Child Wealth Fund, speak to that and the importance of it for future generations of Barbados. My son could get access to it because he only born 2 years ago. But yeah.
Well, your Prime Minister said that every child that is born into Republic Barbados, this is the Barbados Republic Child Wealth Fund, is going to be gifted a one-time birthright dividend by law, so that it makes sure that you are starting from, no matter who you are, where you come from, where your parents are, you are starting with something in hand. And that's something that we've been talking a lot when we talk about like building generational wealth and breaking the cycle of poverty. And so if we are going to reduce inequality, we have to have a standard. And as the manifesto talks about, every Bajan child deserves a chance to thrive, and this is really that jump start that the government is really providing for children. Now it can be accessed by parents, by the child between 18 to 25, used as collateral for a home or for education or a loan. It allows as well that you can top it up, but you can't withdraw before. And so parents can contribute, each parent can contribute, family members, the diaspora. And so the importance of it is really saying to every child that we see you, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are. And because you have been born into Barbados, you are deserving of this, because we want to make sure that no matter who you are and what your aspiration is, you can thrive. And so every child enters adulthood with an asset. And as someone who comes from a working class family, a lot of times persons who come from specific families or specific neighborhoods often feel like they're starting at a disadvantage. And what we're saying is that no, we want to make sure that there's some kind of level playing field for every Barbadian child. And I think that's a beautiful thing to see come to fruition. And it's something that a lot of us who are younger and who may not have children yet, but are considering, I think it's a great way to encourage us to do so, because it gives hope that your child, regardless, like I keep saying, of circumstance, will be born into something and with something that gives them hope.
So people's, it's not a cash grant up front, as you heard from Roshana, because a lot of people was messaging saying, man, I can get that $5,000 for my child. No, it's an investment into your child's future and into future generations of Barbados. So Caleb, you spoke about voter apathy.
Yes.
And what would you say to that young person who may not be interested in voting or who may be unsure about voting? What would you say to them to encourage them to exercise their democratic right and to be involved in the political process?
Yeah. So this election is going to be my second time voting. 2022 general election, that was my first time voting, and I could just remember the experience. Going in, standing up in the long line, it was waiting in the hot sun, and then you hear the name and you go to the polling booth and then you put your X, and I'm like, am I really doing this right? Because it was like your first time. And honestly, when speaking to that young person who might be experiencing some form of voter apathy, you have to recognize that your vote matters. If you stay home and you don't vote, you still technically voted. You understand? And when we look at the history and where we are now and where we have came from, recognizing that our foreparents, our forefathers, didn't have this opportunity to vote, didn't have that opportunity to be able to chart our own destiny and to have that as a personal experience that burns within our heart. Is that you know, we take things for granted, and I'm asking young people to do not take your vote for granted. I'm not saying to go out and vote for any particular political party, but ensure that you use your acts to chart your own future.
Yeah, that's a very important point there about going out there and charting your future.
Yes.
Roshana, how can we encourage more younger people to be involved in national dialogue and engaging in active citizenship?
You know, when I look and I go back to the manifesto, because once again, the commitment of the manifesto sticks with me. And that expansion of youth representation in the Senate is important, but the inclusion of young people across boards, commissions, advisory committees, and working groups where appropriate is also very important. In addition to the youth parliament, one of the challenges we have is this feeling of being unheard. Like, regardless of what I do or what I say, it does not matter because nobody is listening to me. I believe, and I've witnessed this government make a serious effort to integrate young people at every level, but not only to integrate them, but to implement and empower them to be able to contribute to the kind of work that is important for nation building. And so it means that my thought is that if you absent yourself from the process, if you don't show up when we have the national consultations, and you don't show up when we have the public dialogue, you don't engage in the process at all, what you are doing is allowing others to make a decision for you. And the future of Barbados and the Barbados that we want to live in is too important for persons to opt out. A lot of times people say, no, well, I don't do politics. Politics can do you regardless. Before I could vote, I had to pay for university. That was a political decision. Whether or not there were buses available, that is a political decision. The state of healthcare is a political decision. The kinds of courses, the kind of things that we make priority, whether or not welfare is increased or minimum wage is a priority, whether or not workers are actually listened to and respected, whether or not gender issues, maternity leave is extended. Every aspect of our life is determined and shaped by politics because it is about who gets what, when, and why. And that really has to do with how we allocate resources. And the allocation of resources is done within the political sphere. And so if you are not there, if you are opting out, if your voice is not heard, but even if you feel like you are not being listened to, the joy of being in democracy is that we allow protests. And we've seen it across Barbados. And when our lives as Barbadians, the rights that we enjoy, a lot of it came from protests and struggle and rebellion and mobilization and solidarity and unity and all those different things. And so if we opt out now, what we do is that we give way to persons who may not be interested in driving Barbados forward for the majority. And so my encouragement is show up, show out, be accounted for. And when you are uncomfortable, use your voice. Use the platforms, the social media platforms, the social platforms, in order to demand change and hold government accountable. But do so with the facts at hand, and do so fully aware that if you are continuously shouting, you can't hear anything else. So we have to be able to allow for room for dialogue, and also figuring out within the society, what is my role? Because that is active citizenship and democracy. It's not just about saying, well, I don't like this, I want this to happen, but how do I as an individual, how do we as citizens contribute to the kind of Barbados that we want to see?
Your thoughts, Caleb?
I think that Roshana would have hit a lot of nails on the head. Really and truly, as I said already, young people have to understand that politics is everywhere. Politics in the church, politics in the workplace, politics in the home. And as Roshana said, back to healthcare, back to education, and back to those certain things, all of those are political decisions. And if you sit home and you say you ain't going to vote, I ain't going to stop in that hot sun or whatever the case may be, I ain't going to stop in the line if you want. if you want, you gotta come and whatever the case may be for my vote. That is not how it's supposed to go, and you recognize that you might be selling the future that you do not want. But when you go and cast your S, you get to chart your own path, chart your own destiny, and to be able to ensure that you can live in a Barbados that you chose to decide it.
And if I cut to here, you brought up something that I think is very important, and I've heard a bit of, you got give me something for my vote.
Mm-hmm.
You have reduced your vote, your right to a transaction. And so once you go to the ballots, or you are paid, or whatever it may be, whatever that transaction is, once that is done, the transaction is done. I owe you nothing. And so when we reduce our right and our responsibilities down to a transaction that happens in a moment, what we ultimately do is also reduce the quality of our democracy, because I no longer, a representative may feel like I no longer owe you the kind of representation without that payment. Because what you have been paid for your services, which was the vote. And it also means that it cheapens what we are doing, which is building a future. And so if you opt out of that, and you opt out of engaging, what we ultimately do is that we have a democracy that caters to the few instead of the many. And any politician, any person, any candidate vying for representation that is saying to you that they're going to pay you for your vote, I don't know that they're very much interested in representation, and that's a concern.
Points well taken, points very well made as well. So for those persons out there, the election is February 11th, and we're just over a week away from that election.
Yes.
What message do y'all have to those persons out there? Just share a message to encourage them to come out and participate in the elective process and to go on vote in 30 seconds. That's your promo there. Starting with you, Caleb.
Yeah,
look straight to the camera and
straight to the camera. Okay,
yeah.
all right. Certainly, as president of the National Youth Council, I will urge every single young person to be able to consider their options, to weigh the options. We have the Barbados Labour Party was the first out to be able to launch their manifesto, Greater Will Our Nation Grow. Look at the various manifestos from other political parties and be able to say, you know what, is this what I want 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? Weigh your options and go with the best choice.
Well, my bit is a little different to Caleb's. The Barbados Labour Party is the only choice within this election. We have shown that we are prepared, we are ready. We have a record that shows that we can handle Barbados during crisis, and we can lead Barbados into progress. And so when you go to the polls on February 11th, and when you have all the information that confirms everything that I just said, you are going to vote, and I want you to vote for the Barbados Labour Party so that we can continue to build the best life for our people.
So thank you, Roshana. Thank you, Caleb, for joining us here today on the Bajan Strong podcast. It was a pleasure to have both of you on.
Yeah.
Two very good friends of mine, and I am proud of both of your journeys. Please continue on the path of success. Please continue on the path of transformation, transforming Barbados to a better place. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Ms. Roshana Trim, the president of the League of Young Socialists, and Mr. Caleb Braffett, the president of the Barbados Youth Development Council, for this segment, a youth conversation on the Bajan Strong podcast.
Labour people, represent with your hand in the air.
Big man, as usual, you talking a truck over the garbage again. How you mean? Kader, give the DLP a chance again. You feel that this like man play cricket for the past and a man batting real good is here. Kader, get somebody else a chance, man. My man, this is serious things. You feel again?
You got that right. I don't know what foolishness you're talking.
Yeah. You forget COVID. You remember COVID? You can remember COVID? Huh? You millions of people dead. Economies enough get destroyed. Huh? Tell me, who you would have preferred to bring you through COVID? Huh? The DLP or Mia and she team? Huh? Tell me, are you listening?
Answer the man. The man talking to you.
Are you listening? Big man, Mia and she team successfully bring through COVID. Huh? You remember how on we get 20-something downgrades? Huh? And we credit ready to flow through the South Force and the sewage? Huh? You remember them things? You remember them things, man?
Answer the man.
I listen. And when we're stepping, she restructured the debt, strengthened with foreign exchange. I want you to know, right, that tourism at an all-time high and unemployment at an all-time low. Civil service getting increased in pay, minimum wage get increased. I know investors now invested in businesses in Barbados and people now letting money again. Are you saying, Kate, give it to the LP another chance again? You got to be mad or something. And don't forget when Hurricane Barra come, it destroyed all over 200 fishing boats. And what me and the team trying to do, give the fishermen money to repair them boats, You mad here?
Not only that, you know the sell fish too. I went all the way to the market and had the fish to sell because the boats are mashed up. Me and make sure we have money to pay the bills, yes. Buy food. I send Kuri children. That is leadership.
Telling me? I just come here talking about, there, give the DLP another chance again. My man, this is a time for the experiment. This is a time to give nobody the keys to the mercenary to come and mash it up. We need a strong voice on the international scene to represent Barbados. We need strong leadership in this country. You understand what I'm telling you? And you talking about, God there, give the DLP another chance again? But you got to be mad and ignorant. Oh, really damn knows ya. I agree, pass.
You pass? Another sex love.
At least I get your love, though.
With pride, in challenging times, when we come together, the country smiles, cause we are for you, me, we, and the BLP party.
And welcome back to the Bajan Strong podcast. And we just had an excellent conversation with Roshana Trim and Caleb Braffett. And now, following the first episode with the conversation with the candidates, we now have a special guest, and it is my pleasure to introduce perhaps some may say a controversial figure, a controversial man, Michael Lashley, the candidate for the city of Bridgetown. Michael, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Good evening to you. I'm good. Good. I'm comfortable.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that you would be running for the Barbados Labour Party?
Well, anything is possible in politics. And when you put country first, something like this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
You put country above party, and you look after the interests of the people, this will happen. It's natural.
Okay, and what would be some of your motivating factors for joining Barbados Labour Party?
I would say some of my motivating factors. The fact that I think the Prime Minister has exhibited strong leadership, of course, with respect to when we had the various crises, in terms of crime prevention. And indeed, when we look at the transformation of the criminal justice system, the robust approach and the various pieces of legislations that came out in Parliament, I must say that, it would, of course, encourage me to become part of a Barbados Labour Party team.
That sounds good, but tell me what your answer is when I say to you, but persuade those of us who think that this is crass opportunism.
I don't think it's crass opportunism because, of course, quite frankly, I think my practice is going pretty great. And for someone to leave a practice that is growing, I actually worked throughout the Caribbean. Up to today, I received an email to a prayer in St. Lucia. And so, I'm doing it for the country. So I wouldn't say that is opportunism. I'm saying basically, as I will say all the time, my view is to assist, lend my skills to the government of Barbados and to the people of Barbados.
2 questions, an easy one. You've been around politics for a long time. I imagine that people think they know you. Apart from the fact that we learned December before last that you shell peas. Tell us something about yourself that the public doesn't know and may find interesting.
Well, I must say that I'm a musician.
What instrument?
I play bass guitar.
Whoa.
I come from a family of musicians. I actually, my brother plays with Casey and Sunshine Band. The bass player with them. Actually was honored
Yes.
Two independence ago. So I would come home, he would come home, and you know the bedroom would be filled with bass guitars. I one day snatch up one and start to run my hand on the fretboard, and they said, "This feel good," you know. And so I got into music, and of course, you know, Stetson Bishop Placid by actually my first cousin. So we have a natural. My mom used to sing in the choir, my sister used to sing in the choir, my niece used to sing in the choir, church choir. So I have a natural way with music, you know.
So thank you for that. I wouldn't have known. I
Playing a
think
piece of
people,
cricket too.
well, people may know that.
Went
but
to St.
not the
Godfrey's
music.
Club evening to practice session, and fast bowler came in and bowled at me, and he said, "Down with that."
Down with that.
Yes, down with that. Yeah.
So tell me about the other fastballs on the political field. You represented a rural constituency.
Yes.
The city is very much the heart of the country, urban Barbados. What are the differences and what are the kinds of challenges that you are seeing or differences that you are seeing between urban and rural Barbados?
I think the challenges in the urban corridor, of course, you have housing conditions, the quality of the housing stock. The fact that some people are really, in terms of employment. In the rural area, a man or a woman that decide, like, again, go in the backyard, get some coals or whatever, and she can make some money and go in the fishing rocks and fish and make money, sustain himself and his family. You know, in the urban corridor, that's prohibited, basically. And I would say that I practice in St. Michael from the time we came out to practice law. And actually, at one point in time, my office was in Greenfield. And actually, every single day, after coming from court, I would go into that village and sit down, talk with the guys, talk with the fellas, even on Robert Street. So I had that connection with the people in the city, not only on a professional level, but also a personal level too.
And the transition from St. Philip, what do you Filipinos telling you on the ground, you know, because you was loyal to them and perhaps one of the better MPs over time? What are they saying to you now that you have gone to run in the city of Bridgetown? And do you feel any sadness about leaving?
You obviously will feel it because you had a connection for 3 terms. 3 terms, actually. In 2003, I was victorious with one of the powerhouses in the Barbados Labour Party, the Scotty Greenwich, who actually did some very excellent community work, was popular. I see Liz is smiling, but and in 2003,
No, he tells us.
in 2003,
as a young politician,
coming out now into practice, and the party asked me to run against Kathy Greenwich. And he said to me, I was scared, but they decided, you know, I can do my work. And he was a good representative. I must say, I would say that he was a good representative.
God rest his soul.
Yes, may he rest in peace. You know, I must say that I get calls every day. People are asking me, you know, when you coming back? And I said, but you know, I can't come back. I'm in the city, you have a representative there already and support her. And they even asked me for shirts. Yes, actually one guy was at the meeting last night at the launch. And he came and he said, I want a shirt, I want to be upfront with you because I know what you have to do in St. Philip. You're for the Barbados Labour Party, but I am coming and joining the Barbados Labour Party. So a lot of people are actually coming over from the Democratic Labour Party, my supporters, to the Barbados Labour Party.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could ask, because it's a natural segue in what I had hoped, a question I'd hoped to ask, which is, what really do you think you bring to the Barbados Labour Party?
Well, as I said before.
So that they would think of you as an asset, or the public could think of you as an asset.
As I said, I bring my experience as an advocate at the bar, as a former minister, Minister of Housing, Minister of Transport and Works, and of course, I'm community oriented. I believe I can touch a lot of places in Barbados that some politicians can't touch. and of course my vision of how we transform the criminal justice system in Barbados. I think that is important to make Barbados a safe society. It's extremely important, and that's when they look at the manifesto and I see the policies. I must say that the policies in this manifesto set so a clear vision of how we're going to make Barbados a safer place.
Your plans for the city, there's a certain perception about, especially the young males that come from the city of Bridgetown. A lot of the crime, the hot spots, the Chapman Lanes, the Arlenes, the Greenfield. What are some of the projects you intend to implement to perhaps deter them away from participating in crime, but also going back to the path of crime once they've come out of prison?
Well, we've actually started a community project team. That team is geared at encompassing the unemployed youth, those people who are vulnerable, those who are disabled, and we have a whole set of programs ready. In fact, we started recently with one program that is giving out hampers to those who are who cannot, and the persons who are unemployed cannot afford to sustain themselves. With respect to the unemployed youth and persons who come out of prison, government cannot do all. So we have to engage the private sector, whether it is employing them in their company, or what we can do is make sure those persons with skills that we can get them into self-employment in terms of giving the financial support and other support. With respect to the prisoners, persons who come out of prison, serve time in prison, I think we will utilize the community centers to bring programs to them. It's not only community centers alone. When fellas spend some time in prison and come out, there's a possibility that there's no family. There's no housing for him. Yeah. There's no way to live. So we have to
just get back into the working system.
Yes, we have to save him. You have to save him. And of course, we have to meet with the community leaders. There are some strong community leaders in the city. Yes. Yeah. Strong, that we have to pull them together and work together with them to save some of these young men.
I found out the other day that Liz was born in the city, in Boxers Road.
Yes.
My granddad, when he first came from India, was from Boxers, living in Boxers Road as well.
I got that information too. Yes.
I grew up in the city, yes. I did.
Yes.
And I still have a connection to the city. We've had my family business there for 60 years.
Whoa.
So it's really one of the black businesses that has gone from the founding generation to the succeeding generation.
What's the name of it?
Zermatt Laundry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just want to ask you, just to make a point, that in the manifesto there is a program outlined that will give exactly the same kind of support that you are speaking to people, the establishment of halfway houses, training and job support for people who are coming out of prison, youth at risk, and so on, because the idea is to target those young men who might otherwise be captured or recaptured by criminal activity and put them into worthwhile activity. I don't believe, and the Barbados Labour Party does not believe, that a majority of young people want to live lives of crime, and we're going to help them to be productive and to feel proud of themselves and be useful members of society. So I imagine that you would be keen to work with that program.
That is my view too. I also is made to understand there will be an urban transformation fund which should be established. The fact that the government has amended the Town Planning Act 2019 to ensure that investors, once they invest, they must give back to the community.
Yes.
I was made to understand that those projects, the investors, they've pledged millions of dollars. So I'm excited by that. Yes. You can use that money, you set up a council or whatever, and that you get this money to assist those young men and women who need help. It is important. It is important.
So I want to ask you a political rather than a constituency question that I imagine many people are curious about. You've been in the bosom of the Democratic Labour Party. I imagine that I could now describe you as being in the bosom of the Barbados Labour Party. Right. And so, my question is, having seen the two parties and the way they operate and the two leaders close up, would you like to tell us what your experiences have been within the structures of the two parties, what you think of them, how they operate? You know, you've seen them close up.
I can use one word. It's been an awesome experience.
Okay.
I mean, and let me say this, that I mean the discipline, the organization. I mean, from meetings to preparation of candidates to nominations, so organized, so disciplined. And you know what I like about the Barbados Labour Party is that the opportunities it gives to young people with potential. I'm not calling myself young.
Oh, I was hoping.
You still a young man?
You and
I call
I.
myself young. What town?
Although you're younger than me.
You still a young man,
I'm still a young man, but of course, the opportunities, the organization. I'm not coming here to not the Democratic Labour Party, but I'm saying to you that the organization of the Barbados Labour Party is far superior, and the discipline. You know, you can't have someone who perform the best in the election, and then when it comes to candidate selection, that person is Pat won't say. And persons who receive 10 and 15 votes in the box and 4 votes in the box becomes the priority.
So, Michael, before we wrap up, I want to ask this question. How did it make you feel? Because you have been a senior person within the Democratic Labour Party.
Mm-hmm.
How did it make you feel when this treatment was meted out to you?
Well, you know, it's politics. Yeah, you have to be broad. Of course, I was concerned, and I know that I've made contributions to the party at the electoral level and otherwise. And, you know, I think that we had persons in the party who believe that they're the best politicians out. And people who never ever or will never win a seat. I come in to speak to someone who had the experience of winning. And, you know, my family was concerned too. Because they attacked my family too.
Whoa.
I will say that. I have WhatsApp on my phone, which will show that after they realized they can get through to me, my sister was on the committee, and they sent out a WhatsApp, a damaging WhatsApp about my sister, you know? So you can attack me, but don't attack my family. That is where I draw the line.
Are you happy with how you're being received in the city just before I close?
Yes, I must say that. I feel like St. Philip. I feel like St. Philip. I mean, I wasn't surprised though, because I'm a familiar face in St. Michael. All through St. Michael, I must say, all through St. Michael, even back to St. Lucie, you know? And that is because of course, my professional way and my personal way of speaking to people. I know of some people in the city, you know, that would come to your office and they say, hi, how you doing, Mr. They don't want anything, you know. How you doing? Years ago, then you come back now to the cat and say, Mr. Latchy, you recall, you know the bond between two of you. So it's a natural bond between myself and the people in the city.
Who are watching Bajan Strong, Michael Andrew Lashley, the Barbados Labour Party candidate for the city. February 11th, get out, vote. Think I'm hearing the bell coming. So we are coming to the end of another Bajan Strong, episode number 2, where we're looking at the hot political issues of the day in the run-up to the general election of February 11th. vote. Get out and vote. Tahir, what did you think of today's program?
Man, it was spicy with Michael Ashley. Just hearing him talk and about his journey in politics and the challenges he faced. Especially, you could see a bit of the hurt in his eyes as it relates to the treatment met out to him within the Democratic Labour Party, and what would have encouraged him to join the Barbados Labour Party. So it's interesting times. I hope the audience enjoyed it as well, and also hearing from the two younger persons, Roshana and Caleb, on what they needed, what they think is important for people to come out and vote. What was your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting. It was good to hear the youth perspective. Unlike you, I didn't look into Michael's eyes, so I'm not sure what you saw there, but I'll take your word for it.
You're not supposed to look in another man's eyes.
Okay. I'll take that. Okay, so then I can't tell you what was in his eyes. But his answers were very interesting, and I think that the public will judge, make an assessment. I think we both tried to be forthright in our questioning or firm in our questioning. I don't think that we gave him any little softballs. And of course, it was wonderful again to have Dr. Hines and Peter Wickham on the program, and we hope that they'll join us for yet another episode.
Yeah, they're leaders. They're definitely leaders in the region, in their political spaces, and their contribution is always treasured.
That's a fact. And we're lucky to have them. I'm very grateful. And I again want to stress that Dr. Hines and Mr. Wickham are here in their professional capacities. They're not endorsing our policies. They are not partisan. They are not members of the Barbados Labour Party. We have asked them to come because they are thought and opinion leaders in Barbados and have a contribution to make. The Barbados Labour Party wants this to be a program for serious discussion where people are able to make informed choices. They will not always agree with me. They are not always going to agree with Tahir, and you may not always agree with them, but that is the nature of democracy.
So ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Liz. The bell has rung, and we're coming to the end of yet another episode in this Bajan Strong podcast. I really want to encourage you to go out and read the manifesto. Go to your constituency office, get a hold of one. It's also digitally online. You can click the link below to read it and review it, and also the red record. So until next time, from Tahir and
Liz.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bajan Strong and Pompey.